All right, so reality and truth in a mystical sense deals with what can never, ever, ever change. What is that? The source. Now, let me just get a little bit more in depth about this shit and about why the source is seen as the only real thing and stuff like that. All right, so anything with the form like this fucking comforter, like my fucking body, like my motherfucking, like if I had a bracelet on, like my fucking bracelet, like my pillow behind me, like that shit behind me, all that shit is going to eventually turn into a different form one day. It's all gonna deteriorate and turn into something different one day, including my body and everything like that. Even the images of a god or goddess will one day stop being that image, like, because the image is not the real thing. Now, even with light, electromagnetic radiation, what scientists call energy, that shit is necessarily not real. Why? Because energy takes a whole bunch of different forms. So you have to go to the beginning form that never, ever, ever really changes. The only thing that never changes inside of you is the source. That's it. That's the only thing that never really changes. It takes different forms, but doesn't actually change. Like, for example, water turns into ice, but it's still water. It didn't change from water. It just became a temporary form of ice. However, it will go back to water eventually when it stops being so fucking cold. You feel me? It's always going to revert back to water. But it could take the form of many different ice cubes. It could be a fucking dinosaur ice cube. It could be a human ice cube. It could be it could be, I don't fucking know, an ice cube of a fucking genitalia. I don't fucking know. My whole entire point is, though, the source could take all these different forms, but it's going to revert back to that original form, that being the water, that being the source. Everything has all these different forms, but it's going back to the source. And the reason why it's important to know that is because when we get caught up in things that are all temporary, regardless of if it's going to be millions of years, at the end of those millions of years, it's going to go back to the form of the source, right? Therefore, it's still temporary. Anything that's temporary that we attach ourselves to will eventually cause us suffering because it's going to eventually end. Even if we attach ourselves to an item that doesn't go away from us inside this lifetime, once we die, the item is gone. You feel me? So at that point, it's gone from our level of awareness due to the fact that we can't even experience that item until we're inside the physical realm. And if that physical item has a very strong pull on you, then you may reincarnate over a simple as physical item. Literally. It's important to get in tune with what's real because everything else is temporary. Therefore, anything else that you get caught up inside of, that you get pulled in, will only be a temporary circumstance. Even inside the higher planes, all higher planes that are not directly source experience are all temporary dimensions of experience. Granted, they can be less temporary than the physical plane, for sure. They could be way more long lasting than the physical plane, but it's still temporary. Still, the only thing that's not temporary is the ultimate source, which is why it's important to get in tune with that shit. And that's why when you do get into with it, you don't actually really see much. Like, on your way to the source, you may go through the astral plane and have hella experiences. You may see motherfucking angels. You ask me see some negative shit, even though I doubt that you will if you're going to the source. If you're going to the source, you're gonna transcend all the negative shit pretty fast. Especially if you could feel the source and really you're actually already in line with that shit a lot. You could get to the astral plane, you fucking talk to angels, may see motherfucking fucking fairies and shit. You could see a whole bunch of shit in the astral plane, but eventually you'll be led to the source, which goes beyond all that shit. You feel me? Like, literally. So on your way there, you may have some crazy mystical experiences. Hell yeah, but don't get stuck at those. You can always go beyond them shits. You feel me? And you'll get to eventually what's real, and it'll actually be the lack of experience. The less shit there is, the more in tune with the source you know that you're actually in, because the less temporary forms there are, the more real this shit is. So it's like if you experience an ultimate deep blackness, I mean the darkest shit you ever seen, you're very close to the source, to a point where you may actually black the fuck out. You feel me? Like, and most people now, like, there's a bit of a difference. Some people black out in meditation because they fall asleep, that's a form of getting in tune with the source. Here's what I mean by that. Depending on how trained your awareness is, when you experience certain levels of high feeling, you may get knocked the fuck out if you're not used to that shit. So a lot of people are not used to the source. Therefore, as you experience higher levels of the source, you'll get knocked the fuck out faster. That's why when you go to sleep at night, when you start going to sleep and feeling really good, what happens? You get knocked the fuck out. You feel me? You fall unconscious when you go to sleep because of how good it actually feels. You feel me? Yeah. Now, you could actually get into that. You could get into that state, but not at nighttime. You could actually fall asleep like that, but in the daytime when you have energy, this will actually help you have more awareness. But it will take a longer time to fall inside that unconscious state. But it is possible. You feel me? And getting inside that state can help you get to the source. No cap. But yeah, that's what's real in the mystical sense. Only the source. That's why it's important to get in tune with the source, because that's the only thing that's actually real. If you wanna have some sort of stable, abiding reality and some stable, abiding truth, you need the source, because nothing else is actually real. I don't give a fuck how mystically in, enticing it is. I don't give a fuck how beautiful that shit is. It's still temporary. Even if it's gonna last a million years, that's still temporary. And eventually it will die like everything else. It will go through some form of transformation and turn into something else. That's why it's important to get in tune with the source. Remember, it's like water and ice cubes. No kappa. No kappa. All right, I think I said everything. Peace.